What's going on YouTube? Gemini Jets 10 here, and welcome back to the channel. Today, coming at you guys with another massive 1-400 scale model unboxing. This is the biggest single unboxing that I believe I've ever done on the channel. This is on a technicality, and I will give it an asterisk. It is a 17 model unboxing. We have 17 brand new 1-400 scale models, 16 die cast, 1 3D printed, and there's your asterisk. That is the total cumulative haul from the past 2 model shows that I have been to, that being the Dallas-Fort Worth Airliners Collectibles show at the end of April, and the Chicago Airliners Collectibles show that was just this past weekend in May. I do apologize for not getting this up sooner. I came down with a respiratory infection. I am still on the tail end of that, or else I would have had this up shortly after I got back from vacation. I even took an extra day off work to film this video the day I got back, but I was totally down for the count, so I apologize. Without further ado, let's not waste much more time. Let's jump right into this unboxing. We'll go over some news at the end of the video regarding the status of the house and everything like that. We are making really good progress, but what we're focusing on today is the 17 new models that are before us here. So let's not waste much more time. Let's just jump right into this thing. I'm not even really sure where to start, so I think we're just gonna go in order. Hello, by the way, you can see my reflection in the TV. We're really just gonna go, I think, in order of probably biggest to smallest box, really, just to kind of keep everything even. I'll try to shout where I bought them from, whether it was in Dallas or in Chicago. I have a pretty good memory of where I bought them. I should mention that 3 of the models in this haul did come from Greyland Station. We flew into Chicago on Friday morning, the Friday before the show. We landed at oh my goodness, it was probably just after 6 a.m. when we landed in Chicago. Just after 7 a.m., I'm sorry, when we landed in Illinois. So we made a trip to downtown Chicago just to visit downtown, and stopped at Greyland Station on the way back. So 3 of these models did come from there. Again, if I remember, I will try to mention it, but we will start off here, just, going in order of biggest to smallest box. So right here we have the JC Wings 1-400 scale Korean Air 747-8 Intercontinental. Absolutely gorgeous model. This particular model completes my 1-400 scale 747-8 Intercontinental collection, at least of the regular passenger versions. I should say, until somebody releases a new livery 747-8 for Korean Air. At the current moment in time, I have all of the models on the market. So we've got the Air China 747-8, I have the Korean Air now, and then all 3 of the Lufthansas. The old Lufthansa livery, the new Lufthansa livery, and the retro Lufthansa livery as well from YY Models. That's an excellent, excellent model for the price. But the star of the show right now is this beautiful Korean 747-8i from JC Wings in the old Korean Air livery, of course. The more prominent one, Korean Air, did just come out with a new livery. What do you guys think of the new Korean Air livery? I personally am not a fan. I think it's a little too modern. I really like this livery. They kept the same blue color, but they modernized everything, made it a little too minimalistic for my liking, but to each their own. But there we go, guys. JC Wings does an excellent job. They use the same molds that Gemini does. I should say the models, I believe, are produced in the same factory. I don't know that for sure, but I know for a fact Gemini and JC Wings use the same molds. I don't know if they're owned by the same parent company, but these JC Wings models, for whatever reason, just always seem to come out with a slightly higher quality than the Geminis do. So that is just an excellent, excellent aircraft. Super duper excited to add that to the collection and complete the 747-8i collection. Jumping in now to the Phoenix Qatar Airbus A380. Both of these models, both the Korean Air and the Qatar, we picked up at the Dallas show. These did not come from Chicago. So was super duper excited to be able to add this particular unit to the collection. In terms of Qatar models, I believe the A350-1000 is the only other Qatar model that I have. So I should say that we have in the collection. So super duper excited to add this Qatar Super Jumbo to the collection. An excellent, excellent addition. Phoenix does an excellent job with their models too. They have really high quality molds. And what shocked me was unbelievably how light this Airbus A380. It's almost like it's hollow. I don't really know how to describe it, but I don't know if this is like a special version of a Phoenix models. Like I know NG does the NG Light. So I don't know if that's what this is on the Phoenix side, but this model is incredibly light. I was very, very surprised at how light this A380 was. Just an absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous aircraft. Super excited to add that unit to the collection. Quick camera adjustment later, and let's jump right here into one from the home state. This is the Lockheed C5M Super Galaxy, the Lackland Air Force Base version, the 433rd, I want to say it's the 433rd Airlift Wing, based at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas. So super duper happy to finally add a C5 Super Galaxy. The Super Galaxies are usually super duper expensive. This one ran $65, as you can see by the price tag. So just super duper excited to add this. Of course, had to add it. It was a Texas-based aircraft. And of course, for those of you who do not know, I do live in Dallas-Fort Worth. It continues to build on the military fleet for the collection. I believe this is going to be the... That'd make this either the third... It's definitely the third, possibly the fourth military aircraft from Gemini Max added to the collection. Anyways, this marks the third Gemini Max aircraft added to the collection. Of course, had to add it. It was a Texas-based model. The gear on these, I will give a forewarning, the gear on these C5s is super duper crazy and super duper fragile, and if one of these breaks, you're screwed. So just a warning to anybody who goes out looking at one of these particular aircraft. Just so excited to finally add a C5 Super Galaxy to the collection. This has by far been one of the ones that I have wanted to add in terms of a military freighter for a very long time to the collection, but either they had never done one of the Lackland models, or if they had, it was not prominent on the resale market or anything like that. This was a pretty recent release. This was a 2024 release, so pretty recent. Just super duper excited to be able to add this unit to the collection as well. So a big reason we went super heavy at the last two shows was honestly because of the tariffs that are coming into play. President Trump did just announce that they were going to ease the tariffs between the United States and China. I think the U.S. and China reached a joint agreement on easing tariffs both ways, so hopefully that should see the new Gemini orders ship. I know Gemini was holding the orders in China, waiting to see if the tariffs eased up, and they did reach the temporary agreement on it, so we'll see if that actually holds. But that's a big reason I went so heavy at the last two shows, because I knew it was going to be the last two shows before the tariff prices on the new models started hitting. And even at the Chicago show, there was a couple of tables where they had, you know, recent released 777s and 747s priced in the $80, $90, and $100 range. And I'm just looking at these like, that's just ridiculous. I mean, I get it that the tariffs are coming in, but come on, guys, come on. I know dang well they didn't pay that price for them from the shipper, so it is what it is. I really hope it doesn't affect it because this is by far not a cheap hobby. I'm usually very transparent about the cost of how much I spend on these models and at these shows. So I believe I spent, I want to say it was $460 in Dallas and then $500 in Chicago, I believe was what it came to, grand total. I did one card charge at Greyland Station, paid cash for everything at the show, so I believe it came to $500 in Chicago, $460 in Dallas, so a little over $1,000 for these 17 new models. So this hobby, not cheap by any stretch of the imagination. Just really hope that these tariffs don't hit hard. I don't even know if I explained this or talked about it at all. This is the Kalitta Air 777-300 Boeing converted freighter. Again, don't even know if I even talked about it, but Kalitta Air is the first U.S. operator of the 777-300 ER freighter. It's basically a new variant of the 777 freighter. Boeing is still producing the 777 freighters based off of the -200 LR. I believe they're still producing them. I know for a fact they're still doing the 767s, but the -200 LRs may be stopped because of the 777X freighters that are coming out, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe those are going to be based off of the 777-8 freighter. The freighter variant, excuse me, is going to be based off of the 777-8. So super duper excited to be able to add this particular aircraft to the collection. This was a 2024 or 2025 release as well, so this was a brand new model. Super duper excited to expand the cargo fleet. I believe that also marks my first Kalitta Air model, so that's pretty cool as well. I know we did say we're going to go in order from largest to biggest, but we are quickly going to hit the asterisk just to get that out of the way, and that is this little unit right here. This is a FedEx Express FedEx feeder, I believe is the official name of it. Cessna 208B Grand Caravan. I would be lying if I said I remembered who the producer of this was. They had a table at the Chicago show. If I remember, I will put their link down in the description below. But these are pretty decent quality 3D printed models. Now, unfortunately, transporting it home back to Texas, we did feature a break, and that is one little issue with these 3D printed units. The two wings split apart. I was able to repair it, so it does look pretty decent still, but doesn't change the fact that it did feature a breakage. Not the fault of the manufacturer, it was my fault 100%. Transporting it home, I should have been a little more careful where I was transporting it at in my luggage, so that was totally my fault. These do come with a little stand in the back there. You can see that little black stand, or else this bad boy will not sit properly. As you can see, he is not sitting on his nose gear. I do not want to push down on it. Excellent little addition to the 1:400 scale collection. I believe this unit ran $15, so totally worth it. It's my first ever 3D printed anything for the airport, or for the model collection, excuse me, so that is really cool all on its own. There is a call to say, hey, you know, that's not actually a model. I would consider it a model, and I do consider it a model and an addition to the collection. It may be 3D printed, but it's going to be out on the airport table. It's going to have routes. FedEx does fly the Cessna 208s in and out of Alliance Fort Worth Airport, which is where FedEx has its North Texas air freight hub. They do have a terminal they do have a freight center at DFW Airport, but their main air freight goes out of Fort Worth, so they do fly these bad boys down and around Texas, especially up into Oklahoma. I believe I've seen flights to Kansas before on these aircraft. Super duper happy to add this unit to the collection. Again, if you don't consider it a model, well, I'm sorry. You're wrong. I am kidding. But an excellent addition to the collection. I'm going to leave this guy in his case so he does not sustain any additional unnecessary damage. Moving here into the Emirates Airbus A350-900. So Emirates did just add the A350-900 to their own fleet. It was either right at the end of 2024 or the very beginning of 2025. This aircraft began revenue service for Emirates, so super excellent addition to the collection. This marks Emirates model. This is either number 4 or 5. It may be number 3. I don't think it is, but an excellent addition. My other Emirates models, I have an A380 painted in a livery that it is no longer painted in, which is unfortunately a very common theme with Emirates models, it seems. We have the 787-10, which I'm pretty sure for a fact that Emirates does not have in their fleet. We also have the 777-9, which of course has not even entered full-scale production yet. So the A350-900 marks my only Emirates aircraft that they actively have in the fleet. So super duper happy to add this Emirates Airbus A350 to the collection. Moving on here, this is going to be the first Gemini jet, the first 1-to-400 scale die-cast model that we picked up in Chicago. I did pick up the FedEx 208B in Chicago. All of the rest so far I purchased while in Dallas. This was the only large box model that I purchased while up in Chicago, and it is the Edelweiss Airbus A350-900. So Edelweiss, for those who do not know, is a Swiss-based leisure carrier that is owned by Swissair, which itself is owned by Lufthansa. So big parent company subsidy type deal. Edelweiss is a subsidiary of Swissair, which itself is a subsidiary of the Lufthansa group. So there you go. So this marks only my second Swiss-based model. We do have the Swissair Airbus A340-300, I believe from Dragon Wings, in the collection as well. But an excellent addition on this Edelweiss A350. And a nice touch from Gemini. I noticed they started putting these in some of the A350 and 777 boxes, these little foam padding brick deals which prevent the tray from getting crushed in certain spots. Very excellent, because we all know Gemini did have quite the reputation there for a while. Anyways, absolutely gorgeous livery on this Edelweiss Airbus A350. The Edelweiss, if I am pronouncing that wrong, I do apologize, but the Edelweiss flower on the tail there, the beautiful red featured on the Swiss flag. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful livery. The blue wording, Edelweiss, absolutely gorgeous, just completes the whole model. Super duper excited to add that particular unit to the collection as well. The second of 3 A350s. We will be getting into the third A350 here in a minute. For right now, we will be jumping into the Virgin Atlantic Airbus A330-900 Neo in the 40th anniversary livery. Now, unfortunately, this aircraft is no longer painted in this particular livery. I purchased this model at Greyland Station. This was one of the 3 models that I purchased at the actual hobby shop. I noticed it in there, and we have not had a modern Virgin Atlantic aircraft in the collection since Virgin retired the 747-400s. I still have the Apollo Virgin Atlantic 747-400, but have not had a model that fits into their fleet since they retired that particular aircraft. So super duper excited to be able to add this, and we will get into another model that I found at the show here in a little bit. But this is in the 40th anniversary livery, again, no longer painted in this livery, but did add it anyways, mostly because at the time I saw it and the price was right on it. It was marked as $50, but I was talking to Steve over at Greyland Station. I believe I picked this model up for $40 because it's no longer painted in this livery. So was super duper happy to be able to add it for that price. The price was totally right on that. And really just an excellent model. The A330 Neo molds, Gemini really knocked them out of the park. They did an excellent job with them, and this Virgin Atlantic A330-900 is nothing short of that. So we'll definitely be able to send this aircraft mostly to Springfield Branson if I ever want to. But regardless, we've got it in the collection now. I was going to consider removing this decal. I don't know if it's possible without screwing the windows up, so maybe, maybe not. Might just leave it. Either way, it is a part of the collection now. Jumping now into another Virgin Atlantic model. Picked this one up at the Chicago Airliners Collectibles show. It is a Virgin Atlantic 787-9. Ended up seeing this at the show literally the day after I purchased this, and I was a little bit ticked at myself just because I had just purchased this the day before, but I realized, you know what? What's two of them, right? So we picked up the Virgin Atlantic 787-9 as well. So just was really, really ecstatic to be able to add both of these. Going to be able to add a little variation, you know, during the busier season, summer, spring. Can 100% put this in the airport updates. Can stick the A330 in there during off seasons like winter if we still want to do that. But regardless, two Virgin Atlantic aircraft added to the collection. We can call it a new airline added to the collection, I guess, just because it's not a new airline added, but in terms of aircraft being able to be put into the airports, that I would be okay putting into the airports. Because if I threw a Virgin Atlantic 747-400 in there, would not really make much sense. One more Dreamliner here before we're going to jump into a duo unboxing. It is the Air Canada 787-9 in the new livery. Was super duper happy to be able to add this unit. This unit comes from Phoenix Models, by the way, so the second Phoenix Models aircraft we added in this unboxing. We do have the Air Canada 787-9 in the old livery, which technically is still an accurate model. Air Canada does have a few of their wide bodies still painted in the old green livery. I believe Air Canada is slowly getting all of their wide bodies painted into the new livery, this black and red livery, which I actually really dig the new Air Canada livery, but compared to their old one, I much prefer the old one, the green. It was one of the most unique liveries in the entire sky. So really stunk that they kind of went for this minimalistic modern look, but that's what all of the airlines are going to nowadays. So, but who am I to judge? An excellent model from Phoenix. Love their Dreamliner molds. They've always done an excellent job on their Dreamliner molds. So super duper happy to be able to add that new livery Air Canada to the collection as well. Now we are going to jump into a duo unboxing, and it is two that I am super duper excited for. It is the Delta Airbus A321 Neo in the 100 years livery, and the Delta Airbus A350 in the 100 years livery. Delta was the first of the big three main carriers to turn 100 years old. They were formed all the way back in 1925. And in the past 100 years, Delta has come a long way. Does it tick off the patriotic side of me that they have turned mostly against Boeing and turned to Airbus? Maybe. But that does not change the fact that Delta is the main airline that I collect, paired alongside of American as the two primary airlines that I collect models of. So definitely was on the lookout for these. When they released and I saw them on eBay, I immediately thought that they were overpriced. I was going to consider pre-ordering these, but I knew I was going to Dallas and Chicago for the two shows, so I figured somebody would have them at least one table. There was 4 or 5 tables in Dallas that had them, and a couple in Chicago. I don't know if it was that many, but super duper excited to be able to add both of these. We're going to start with the Airbus A350. The liveries are identical, of course, besides the fact that one's painted on an A350, one is painted on an A321 Neo. But again, just ecstatic to be able to add the gorgeous livery for Delta's 100-year celebration. Absolutely love the livery that Delta designed for the 100 years. The couple of shades of metallic blue and the silver and everything. It's just absolutely immaculate livery on these Delta aircraft. It complements their regular livery so well, and it's just, it really is, it's a good looking aircraft, there's no doubt. Delta did an excellent job getting that designed. We'll take a look as well at the A321neo, which is not the sister ship to this A350, of course, but did get painted in the 100 years livery as well. Absolutely beautiful A321neo from Delta. The cool thing about Gemini, and I will shout Gemini out here, Gemini was the exclusive model partner that did the releases on these Delta 100 years models. So even though NG, and I want to say Panda, but I believe I'm mistaking there, NG is definitely planning a release or has done a release already of the Delta 100 years models. They are technically, and I say with air quotes, technically not licensed. So the Gemini 1 to 400 scale models are the only 1 to 400 scale models that are licensed for the Delta 100 years livery. So super duper happy to be able to add these Gemini models for sure. Just absolutely gorgeous couple of aircrafts there. Jumping here into the lone Airbus A320 we picked up, it is the JetBlue Airbus A320 in the iHeart New York livery. This is an older Gemini model. This unit hails from 2016, so oh my gosh, that's almost 10 years ago. Wow. This was for sale at one of the tables there. It is, of course, used. It was a collection sale for 40 bucks. This is an incredibly rare, incredibly sought-after model. So when I saw it for 40 bucks, I was like, oh my gosh, that's unbelievable. This unit came from Chicago as well. Everything, excuse me, everything from here on out came from the Chicago show. So absolutely just was ecstatic to add the iHeart New York special livery. Again, a really rare, really sought after model. Absolutely gorgeous. So excited to add that unit to the collection. Next up here we have the Aeromexico 737-800 in the new Aeromexico livery. We do have the 737 MAX that is painted in the new Aeromexico livery. This livery is different with the purple stripes that it's got going on. So super duper excited to add this particular unit to the collection. Oddly enough, only my second Aeromexico model, despite them being our southern neighbors. I have, I don't know how many Air Canada models, but Aeromexico, only the second one. Super gorgeous 737-800. This was a new release, I want to say. Yeah, this was a 2025 release from Gemini, so pretty recent release on this new livery 737-800. Definitely was excited to be able to add that particular unit to the collection. Oddly enough, it has a registration beginning with November. I thought the Mexican registrations usually begin with XA, so I don't know if I'm completely losing my mind. If somebody knows why that registration is different, because I'm pretty sure the November registration numbers are US registrations, but it is obviously an Aeromexico aircraft, so I don't know if maybe it's owned by a leasing company based here in the States or what the deal is, but if anybody knows why that registration is a November registration as opposed to an X-Ray Alpha, please feel free to let me know. Maybe I'm just completely losing my mind, which is more than a really good possibility. We're going to hit a duo unboxing real quick before hitting our last model. It is the Southwest 737-800s, one of which is in the Illinois one, and the other of which is in the New Mexico one livery. This is the second time I have owned the New Mexico one livery, 737-800 from Southwest. Oh, there's the NG card, which somehow bent in half the long ways. Interesting. I owned the 730 when it was painted on the 737-700 with the Desert Gold tail. I had that model from Gemini, which came in a white box. Bought that years ago. As a matter of fact, my brother may have bought that model years ago, and then he eventually gave it to me. So this is, of course, the modern livery of that particular aircraft. I've spotted this aircraft in Dallas before. Has the heart tail. Of course, the modern Southwest livery. Southwest is working, I believe, or is in the process of repainting all of their special liveries, either onto 737-800s or 737 Maxes. I know both of their retro liveries are on 737 Maxes, and I believe most of their state liveries are going on to the 800s, as well as their other special liveries. So super excited to add that one. And then also Illinois one. Of course, had to pick this up while I was in Chicago. These two particular models actually came from Greyland Station. These were the other two that I bought at the shop on Friday afternoon. Found both of them buried in one of the bins there at Greyland Station. Really cannot recommend enough to check that place out if y'all ever find yourselves in Chicago. It's about a 20-minute drive from downtown, about a 20-minute drive from O'Hare Airport, straight down Devon Avenue, which almost goes straight to O'Hare Airport. So really, really a cool place. Steve is a real nice guy. He will cut discounts for you, whether you're paying cash or just to help get old inventory out of his shop. He has all sorts of models. And I especially recommend it if you guys are going after non-North American narrow bodies. And I know that is a very select group of collectors out there. But if you guys ever find yourselves in Chicago and want to check out a real cool model shop, do everybody a favor and check out Greyland Station. It's really, really cool. There's all sorts of gems in there. And also they have a bunch of N-scale and HO scale model trains as well. I used to be really into the model train scene, not as much anymore, but really can't recommend that enough. This Illinois one livery by Southwest, absolutely gorgeous. Love the eagle and the shield. Really cool. Had to pick that up while I was in Illinois. It was very, very appropriate to do so. And I believe that's the first time I've ever owned Illinois one, so super excited to do that. Very last model, the smallest of the whole bunch. It is a Delta CRJ 900. This is from 2023. I believe this marks either the second or third one of these that we now own. Picked this unit up at the Chicago show. I believe the whole reason I bought this was I bought it alongside of one of the A350s. No. Yeah, I did. I bought it alongside of the Edelweiss A350 to basically get a discount for the two models. Basically added the total cost of the two of those models together and said, hey, why not this price? And the seller said, sure. So picked this unit up. Delta, again, is the, I would argue, the #1 airline that I collect, just because I consider it my hub airline at my main fictional airport, Austin Zeppelin. So it is the primary airline that I do collect models of. But just an excellent model from Gemini. Always love to add the regional aircraft. 17 brand new 1/400 scale models, y'all. That will do it for this video. A bunch of excellent additions. Again, whether or not you would include this little FedEx 3D printed aircraft, which did unfortunately break, but whether or not you would include that, we've got 16 brand new 1/400 scale die-cast models. I say brand new, some used. And then the FedEx Cessna 208. Super duper excited to be able to add all of these models to the collection. The collection's growing so unbelievably large. I'm going to have to get some bigger totes. I have two really large clear totes that have most of the models on it, and then I have a shelf packed completely full of models. So I got to get some bigger totes. That's got to happen. But until then, going to keep growing to the collection as best as possible. A little bit of news on the house. We did just have our inspections this past week. We got a few things we got to knock out real quick, and then we're going to be able to start sheetrock, painting, flooring. Should, in theory, be moved in to the addition by the end of July, which means by the end of July, we will see Austin Zeppelin Airport return. And also, something that is happening at the end of July is I am graduating from university. It has been a very tough 4 years. It has been a very busy 4 years. Graduating with my bachelor's in business with a management focus for anybody out there who is interested in knowing what my major was. The dream is to go work for American Airlines in their corporate offices. I do live in Dallas. They're based just an hour down the road. So that is sort of what I'm leaning towards right now. I've been looking into all sorts of different careers. In the next year, things are going to change a whole bunch here on the channel. Finally going to get the airport set back up, going to get into my new career, and we're going to see where that takes us, because I really am excited to be able to start making more airport updates again. We've grown the collection so much over the last 2 years. I can't tell how many model shows I've been to. At least 8 model shows in the last 4 years. So, added a ton of new models, done a bunch of online purchases. Just so thrilled, so excited to be able to finally be at that point, where things are almost done. So very soon, ladies and gentlemen, we will have the airports set back up. Very soon. Until that day comes, please stay tuned to the channel. Please be sure to subscribe. Big things really are finally coming. I know I've been saying that for a long time, but big things are finally coming to the channel very soon. If you guys enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave a like. If you guys have any comments, questions, concerns, any beautiful words to say, please do not hesitate to leave a comment down below. And if you guys did enjoy this massive unboxing and want to see more massive unboxings like this one, please be sure to subscribe. You guys are what make this sort of thing possible. You guys are what make me want to go to these shows and spend stupious amounts of money on model aircraft. So thank you guys so much. Thank you everybody who has stayed tuned over the years. Big things are coming. Please be sure to subscribe. Gemini out.